Good afternoon. We are again with Lakshman and joined by Hansa. When did you, well, first of all, greetings, Hansa.
Thank you.
So happy that you could be with us.
Yes.
When did you first come to the ashram?
I arrived in Pondicherry in 1956. My dad brought us just for August 15th darshan, and my two younger brothers were with me and my mom. And we were supposed to go back after 15 days, but three of us just loved the experience of being a student there when we witnessed everything. We told our dad, why don't you leave us here in the boarding school, and we would love to stay here. And so my dad said, well, I always wanted to stay here, but mother wouldn't let me because you are my responsibility. So she told me that you come back when your responsibility is over. Both my parents stayed, all five of us stayed, and that's how it all began, you know.
Stayed means you found permanent residence?
Yes. I still remember Dumanbai had received us, and we were put up in the house that where the Vaidraj, the homeopathy, is the Ayurvedic, yeah, that's where we were put up, I remember. And then we stayed there.
And what is your first memory of meeting Mother? You were very young.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the first time my dad took us upstairs when he got the permission to see Mother. Was, I would say, 3 weeks later after we came, which was maybe beginning of September 1956. As a child, all three of us, we just very happy. We could see her. She could give us our blessings. She held our hand, all three of us, and my mom was there, and my dad was there. So that was the first darshan of hers.
And Lakshman, you were telling me something that we didn't cover yesterday. I think you called it a factoid, but I called it a blessing.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about your haircut?
Yeah, though I don't have as much hair now, but as a 3-year-old toddler, the Indian custom of completely shaving your head, as a ceremony associated with it. And since my grandmother or other family members hadn't seen me in a while, so they were trying to make this an excuse. They said, why don't you bring Lakshman for this hair cutting ceremony to Hyderabad, So my father went to the mother and asked, that my family wants me to bring Lakshman to Hyderabad for the hair cutting ceremony. So he doesn't need to go there, bring him and I will cut his hair. So mother cut, the first haircut I got was from mother. And for years my father had saved the scissors she used to cut my hair and the hair in a plastic bag. What he did with it, but that was my first haircut.
So what do you remember about your school years and your teachers?
So I had two very favorite teachers. One was Manojla, and because he taught with a lot of clarity, I felt always. And then I had the one that made my learning very difficult was Sumitra Di. Because and I've cried several times in her class, and not that I was doing bad, but later on, many years later, when I went back, she told me that she was trying to get the best out of me. That's why she was very strict.
And this is Sumitra Singh?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
She taught mathematics to me, and she was quite very openly critical with every exam that I take, and so.
I had her teacher also. She was, as Hansa said, she challenged us, That was her motivation. But as young kids, we were scared.
Yeah, you act scared of her, yeah. But most of the teachers, I had Pooja Lalbhai as my Sanskrit teacher. I loved him. And then I had English teacher was Aster Patel, yeah. And so physics was physics teacher was I'm trying to remember the two brothers. How could I? He doesn't come there.
Oh, yeah, Pradeep and
Pradeep Da was my physics
Pradeep and
teacher.
Praveen Nahar.
Right, and he was very good, very good. I really liked him. So and
I
Tell
think-
me about the times when you were a bit older, when you went to Mother.
the very first time when I used to write to her off and on because my dad was totally, when he brought us, my dad was very ready to live in ashram. My mom, she came from a very affluent family and she was used to little more materialistic life, I would put it very plainly, and comfort, and so she went through a little difficulty because my dad chose to live simply in ashram. We were given a beautiful residence first, but then he told mother we don't need such a big residence. So we were transferred to a smaller place. And three of us, it didn't matter to us. We were just the happiest children. Didn't matter about anything, So that was good, So coming back to your question, when I was 16, I remember this very clearly. When I was 16, I used to have 3 days of the month, lot of cramps in my stomach. And so I don't want to go for gymnastics and I don't want to go for track and field or play basketball. So I wrote to mother because the captains would insist I have to go. So I wrote to mother, Dusmaid, I explained to her, and she wrote back and sent the note with Nalinida, no, I want you to go. I want you to do everything, it's good for your circulation. And from then onward I went and I never thought about it afterwards and I did everything and she was so right, So that was my very first personal request that I had made to her. I remember that,
Have you and Lakshman saved your letters from Mother?
We have some.
Yeah,
Actually,
some.
Sumitra had saved some of the diaries that I had exchanged with the mothers. She gave it to us one time when we were there together. And I have a letter from 1966 that the mother wrote. It's amazing look at the handwriting from that time. You can tell that it's somebody of that age, that it's such a firm, clear handwriting. It's quite amazing. So we treasure that. That was I think the last written note from her that I have.
I had given my letters, there were few that I have written to her during my stay with her. And I had given them to my father when I was coming here, and we lost them. We didn't know. My brother looked a lot, but I couldn't find them. So I've lost all those. But the letters that were very important for me, I remember them. So I feel good about it that I remember.
Yesterday, Lakshman told us about the wedding rings. I'd like to hear from you also.
Okay. So we both were friends since we were quite young, like in high school. We adored each other, and I would follow him and he would follow me. So when he decided to come to USA, we both actually decided that we want to go to further education to somewhere. And so he chose USA, and he came here. And then during the letters, he used to write to me 3 times a week. Those days we could not do phone calls. It was just not possible. So he used to write to me Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week for 22 months, and I would reply, and he would tell me what happened in those 48 hours with his life, and it used to be interesting. And then we went for, when he decided that we should get married, then I wrote to mother that Lakshman is asking that I was just going to come, and I didn't have the idea of marriage in my mind at that point.
Where were you at this
I
point?
was in Pondicherry.
You were in Pondicherry.
Yes, right.
And
he
you
was
were
here.
In Chicago.
You had already come to
Yes,
Chicago.
right, yeah.
Right, yeah. And that was 22 months separation,
But it took a long time for a letter to get to India in those days.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 weeks, huh?
Maybe, yeah,
But
10,
once,
12.
once the motion goes,
Ah,
then
right,
it
so
comes
then
as
it's-
a
yeah,
step
right,
like
right,
after
right.
the first 11 day lag,
So I wrote to mother that I would like to join Lakshman and go to USA for further education. And so she replied right away. Nalinda called me. I used to do everything with Nalinida. All my correspondence, everything I did with him. So he called me, he asked for me, so I went to him and he says, okay, mother has written back to you, he said. So I opened the letter in front of him, and she just said, my blessings. And then Nalinita told me that she wants to see you upstairs before you go. So I went few days later, sometime when it was right time, or when she gave me permission to go up. I went up, and then she looked at me and she goes, okay, I have 2 rings, one for you and one for Lakshman. And then university symbol, So she put it on my finger, and then she gave me for Lakshman.
This is a ring.
Yeah, I don't have that on my
Has
finger.
been on my fingers ever since.
Yeah. So that was, and
then how soon after did you leave?
So I prepared, because I had to prepare to get admission here. So I took I went to Indore, and that's where you could take the higher secondary certificate. Because ashram, you could not get all that. Although Kirit Joshi was very helpful, but so I went there and came, and then I would say within couple of months, then I left, and we picked the date as I was coming in June, so there's no darshan day. I personally wanted a darshan day to get married, but we couldn't, so we picked June 24th as that's the day so we just have the rings. We never have Hindu ceremony around the fire. That's very typical of Indian.
She was our fire.
Yeah. Yes.
She was the fire.
She
Did you
was-
write to mother after you were married?
Yeah,
Yes,
several
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Can you remember some of the things that you asked her?
I think I remember the first time we were going back at it and asking what I could bring back for her. But I think she replied anything specific. That's why we took a lava light
Right, and the
right.
perfume.
Perfume,
yes.
right.
So I wrote to her once when I wanted to learn driving. So I wasn't sure if I should do it at that point. So I wrote to her, and then of course Nalinida wrote back that she has sent her blessings, So that's very clearly I remember, about.
Yeah, I used to get is interesting my correspondence with her. One time I insisted her she write in her own hand, so she
Yeah,
wrote
you
me.
said that.
But otherwise, my responses to me from her came sometimes through Bavitrada and sometimes through Nalinida. But I got through both of them.
One thing I remembered before joining Lakshman now, Selvi Sarkar, Ajit's wife, Ajit Sarkar, you know him. So his wife Selvi and I, we grew up together. So she and me, we both went through a struggle whether she should join Ajit and I should join Lakshman. Whether, according to what Mother and Shivindu taught us, we had conflicts in our mind, big conflict. So we used to go and see Kirit Joshi, because we found him very intellectual, that he would take specific writing of Mother or Sri Aurobindo, more of mother, and then he would discuss with us and make us understand that we were both going to be with someone who are mother's children. And he made us very comfortable, and after that I talked to Nalinda, and then I'd seen mother again before I left, after my ring I'd gone back again, just before I was leaving.
Did you know Jugal?
Huh?
He was my
You
teacher.
hadn't mentioned him, did you?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up. Jugal was I was very, very fond of him, and he was fond of me, as was his mother. Jugal's mother was very fond of me too. So I had Jugal as my physics teacher in the higher course. And then whenever I used to go back, Jugalda would invite me to the knowledge to sit in with his class, And he used to take great pride every time he introduced me to his class. He would say, you see in Sri Aurobindo's picture with his hand on his chest when he's in Samadhi. He said, have you noticed that ring on his Sri Aurobindo's hand? He said, that is Lakshman's father who made that ring for Sri Aurobindo. That's what on his hand.
Oh,
And that ring had two compartments that my father had made. So the lower compartment had Sri Aurobindo's picture in it, and the upper compartment had the mother's picture on it, and then a lid on top. He had that made. So Jugal used to take great pride in telling that to his children in his class. But my connection, my father.
your father must have been a very special man. Did he ever write to Sri Aurobindo?
I'm sure he did. I now when I think back, I sort of regret that I didn't ask him as many questions as my children asked me about us in our childhood. But I'm sure he had some correspondence. He has what I know for sure. There were several books of Sri Aurobindo that were signed by Sri Aurobindo that he had, that was given to him. So he had books autographed by Sri Aurobindo in his collection of his writings. So I know he had connection, and Sri Aurobindo knew who he was from his giving him these books of his. And when Monsieur Andre came first time in 1948, I think, to the ashram, mother wanted him to get a taste of different cuisines of India. So she had arranged for him to visit our house for lunch. And that time we were staying where Mr. Seghal lived, the upstairs. So he and Pavitrada came for lunch. So I remember my dad had a cutlery set, a British China cutlery set. So we had it laid out, a long table for Monsieur Andre. So that was my first contact with Monsieur Andre. And that was, I would say, that was the only time I was relaxed and comfortable around Pavitrada. There was something about his personality. He and Nalinda had an aura around them that didn't allow for somebody mischievous like me to get too close to. The Champaklal, Pujalal Bhai was my Sanskrit teacher, but unfortunately for him, he had to chase me down before he could teach me. He'd come looking for me to my house. We lived right next door to the ashram. But they were all such sweet,
Shishir,
loving.
Shishir
was
my-
another, yes.
he
He
was
was
my
a school
favorite.
principal, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this charming man.
Charming. Very
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And do you have any memories of Amrita?
Yeah, very much, yeah.
Yeah.
When we were studying Krishna Chakravarti and we used to go to him a lot for. He was a little fun-loving kind of person, He was very, very fun-loving. So, and Krishna used to be much better in mathematics than I was. So he used to kid with her sometimes, that someday you may work for me, like. And she wound up being, and even till today, she heads the entire finance department.
I
there.
see.
You see her, I'm sure. Yeah, she sits there, yeah.
Many of them came for lunch to our house.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
Nirodha coming for lunch. Remember Jantilal Bhai, the artist, coming to our house. Purani ji coming to our house. Nirod Bharat coming to our house for lunch. We lived right next to us. It was every so often we'd have somebody or other from that
Mother
old
would
garden.
come to our house.
Mother had come.
Yeah. Yes.
Mother,
Yeah.
that reminds me of another instance with the mother. When the house we were staying in where Himatsika lived, the owner was coming back from France and wanted to repossess that. So the atelier, which is right next door to the ashram, upstairs part had become vacant. The gentleman was living there and passed away. So my father told mother we would like to move there. So mother said, oh, it's too small for you, So mother said, no, I have to come and look at it. So she came to the place with my father and us, and with Kirot, who was the head of the construction department. And she walked through the space, and she said, you don't have enough bathrooms, so she asked Kirot whether he can build something on the terrace that was part of the house, and so she made sure they added another room on the terrace on one side and added a bathroom and toilet on the other side. So after she had gone through the design and remodeling of that space, that she was satisfied that it will be big enough for us to move into.
Now,
Only
is
after
this,
she personally
is
saw.
this where Dhanvanti stays now, or?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Dhanvanti is at the
Yes.
other end of the terrace.
Yes, the other end of the terrace.
Right, so
Okay,
this
very
end
good.
of the
This was
terrace.
right
right.
across the, not Dimanbhai, Panditji's
Across the street.
across the
Across the
street.
street.
Yeah.
Is
Vasanti
where
stays there.
Ravindra-
Yeah.
Yes.
Dhanvanti,
Did you know
Dhanvanti
Vasanti?
stays across from the
Oh,
terrace.
Dhanvanti.
Terrace,
Yes.
yeah.
Across from the
Vasanti,
terrace.
yeah, knew very well.
You knew Vasanti?
Yeah, very well growing up, and then she came to this country quite a few times with Madhav Pandit.
Yes.
And he has come to our house many times.
Yeah,
So
Mother Pandey also visited her house. Yeah.
he used to enjoy a little bit of Indian vegetarian meals, so he would come here.
These, when you think back, all of these people who used to be running around them growing up,
Yeah, Udar, so much time
Yeah,
we have spent.
I remember Udar because he used to make the announcements in the playground about the results from the athletic competitions.
Ah.
So he would announce who was first, who was second, and there were a few times that I was first, and I made a new ashram record, and Udar would say with such force and pride, it's a new ashram record. And I get 2 bags of peanuts for it.
I remember when I had a record with swimming. I enjoyed swimming a
Oh.
lot. So I had a record for the backstroke, 100-meter backstroke. And for a few years after I came here, no one broke that. So they used to write to me every year, it's not broken yet.
And
So-
Hansa, did you know Sunil?
Yeah, because I learned music, so I did 5 years of Rabindra Sangeet. So because I love music and I learned from Tinkorida, I don't know if you know, okay, he was the Rabindra Sangeet teacher for all the students in ashram.
Sanadi, and then after that.
After that was Tinkorida.
After Sahana?
Right, after
Oh,
Sana.
okay.
Yeah, and they also side by side did their own programs.
Sana came from Shantiniketan.
Right, she's from. So of course I always was very fond of everything. Every piece he created was just so beautiful that we would hear it over and over somewhere in the meditation
Yes.
or in.
It's amazing. Sunil's background, he had a college degree in botany.
Yeah.
He had no training in music, but the way mother molded him into an incredible musician and composer was quite amazing to see. The humblest, sweetest man. I used to watch him. He was a very good football player, soccer player.
Yeah.
So when they used to have, there were other teams in Pondicherry, so I used to go play soccer. So as a youngster, we go out and watch Sunilda playing soccer. He was one of the forward strikers, what they call him these days. but it was fun to watch in so
Person-
many different capacities.
Yes.
The person that I enjoyed immensely even after our marriage and all these years is Nirodha. He really, his great sense of humor, you get drawn to him, and yet he will give you a very deep statement, but it's like humorous statement, you know. And so, and few times I've had chance to read Savitri in Sri Aurobindo's room with him. So one day he told me, he goes,
In Sri Aurobindo's room?
Yes. So what happened? I told Sudha, I said, Sudha, I want to read Savitri with Nirodha. Okay, we'll do it, she said. So Sudha and I read, like we were reading. Sudha is the person who took care of him in last 10 years, right? And
Helped him
so-
with his writing interest.
Right. So, and she did all the editing for him, all the editing.
And what did Dolly do? But Dolly was
Dolly
also
was just a niece, so she
Just
looked
a
after
niece.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
physically,
yeah.
physically.
But
so
Sudha was
physically,
more,
okay.
right,
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 right.
physically looked after
Yeah.
him. So one day I told Sudha, I said, Sudha, I would love to read Savitri with Nirodha. She goes, okay, I'll tell him. So following day he said, Esho, come, we'll go. I said, where are we going to read? No, we'll read in Sri Aurobindo's room, he said. So we went there, we sat there, and for an hour we read Savitri. Then he asked me, following day when I used to go and see him every evening when I'm there. So following day he tells me, do you want to go again? I said, yeah. So then we went again 3 days later, you know. So those memories are very sweet
What a
and special.
blessing, what a
right?
great
Special.
blessing.
Yeah.
You lived amongst these
Yeah,
giants,
it was
yogic giants.
Which we didn't know.
incredible extended family to be
Yeah.
around. Each one, all of them showed a great deal of patience and love, you know, and tolerance. Though none of them had children of their own, for example, but they knew how to deal with us, how to handle us, you know. A great deal of compassion and love, you know, which was
Very fond of Light Di, Chamurdi, then Manota's sister Priti Di.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was like a Devi. you
She
know?
was wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful
absolutely.
soul.
Yeah.
And of course, Arati D has
Yes,
been in
my
the school.
teacher,
yeah, Arati was a teacher
My
too. Yeah.
teacher, right? Yeah, she was my teacher.
I enjoyed Tapu Didi. She was full
Ah.
of energy. She was very
Yes.
athletic. She was very good. Remember her,
Yeah, we are looking back here many, many years, aren't we?
Yeah, Chitra Di,
Abhay Singh,
Amita Di.
Abhay Singh was, yeah, I used to work in Abhay Singh's workshop the afternoons. I was
Oh.
free in school, I used to work
Uh-huh.
in his workshop, you know, and play tennis with him, you know.
So when we built the house, I wanted some of the art pieces done by all the ashram artists. So I approached Dhanvanti Ben and she made 2 for me. Then I approached
Prem Bhai.
Prem Bhai, and he has done beautiful.
We still have it for
I still,
30,
I've
40
changed
years.
the frames and all that, but it's a beautiful, huge piece. I told him I love peacocks, so he has done a peacock.
Silk
Beautiful.
painting.
It's a large, very large peacock on a
Ah.
white satin, and it's still very beautiful. Then I have from Vibhadi the batik work. So I told her I love dragon. I have a little fascination with dragon. So she has made a dragon that is dragon, but in between I said I want mother symbol there. So she has a symbol and the fire coming out of symbol and a big, very big
Gorgeous.
dragon. Gorgeous colors, very lively colors.
The other person I can't forget is Vasudha Ben.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us about Vasudha.
Yeah.
Where my mother worked in Vasudha Ben's department.
Oh, the
And
embroidery.
this embroidery, yes. And my mother is sewing embroidery. And my mother had lost complete vision in one eye, but she was still able to thread the needle and do the sewing and all that. So we used to obviously go to that department quite often. So became very close to Vasudha Ben. And she always had a big smile. And it's cute, unique voice, you know, that you knew instantly there was Vasudha Ben. There was a certain amount of joy. You know, it's like she had imbibed some of mother's voice in her voice, kind of. It's quite.
Very
quite
elegant person.
She was,
Very
yeah.
elegant, yeah.
And did you know Priti and Sriti's mother? We called her Ma. She was also in embroidery.
Yeah,
Right, she was, yes,
yeah.
yes, I think, yeah.
I did 1 year for my birthday. I told Vasudha when I want to paint an embroidery gown for mothers because she would wear it on a Darshan day. So I went out, she helped me. I went out and bought all the silk that mother likes, the cream color silk. And then 1 year I went, whenever I have time after school, I would go and they would help me, So I painted. That's the time I came to know Vasudha Ben, because I worked in the department to offer this gown to mother.
When we went back with Neeraj, first time in subsequently, both boys, when she was around, we always, because my mother used to work there, she used to take both her boys to Vasudha Ben's department and she would be playing with them, she entertained them.
What year did you come back?
First time we went back was 70, then with Neeraj we went back in 72.
So
And
did
every
you
other year
take
after.
your children to mother in 70?
Yes.
70, not in 70,
No, it's
in
not.
72 was when
72.
Neeraj was
Oh, right, you
8 months,
mentioned that,
right,
yes.
So we,
And that was like, first I was told that I really was, we both were very keen that we can take him to mother. But he was only 8-9 months old, so we didn't know whether this would be allowed. So I asked Nalinida first, bon, I will ask mother. He said, we'll ask mother. So we were told, okay, we can bring him. So we were so thrilled, taking him to mother, so took him to mother and he was in my lap like this, Lakshman was next to me and then she came, he was describing this to you, so she
Yes.
gave her hand and he picked her thumb and he started sucking.
he just got his first 2 teeth. I
And
think,
then he bit, she goes, ouch, she said, and she took it out, We still remind him of that.
As we come to our close of this wonderful interview, I ask you to go deep within and perhaps share something of what you feel today of Mother's presence and guidance in your lives.
I think I describe how she orchestrated my arrival in this country, and I think ever since I felt that she has found the right spots for me. My first job was in the midst of the recession in America, and the immigration law had just been changed that allowed us to convert our student visa to a permanent resident visa. So even through the recession, we both had found the environment to work in that we desired. And every place we've gone, we have been able to, she has treated us with luxury in a sense. We have lived a very comfortable life, and say in the late 90s, when we were intimately involved with the project and the company, and we were forced to dissociate ourselves from the company that we were founders of. It was a big blow to our ego, right, certainly to mine, and felt like it was an unfair thing, this and that, but 3 years later, 4 years later, when our older son is in California, our younger son has moved to California, and because we were dissociated from the company, the financial situation worked to our advantage, and we were able to move to California. So that firing, as Alok was alluding to yesterday and today, what seemed like a huge emotional blow turned out to be the biggest blessing beyond our wildest expectations. We'd have never dreamt of living in California and location we're living in and the life we're having if it hadn't been for that huge emotional blow. So, we see her hand in everything.
For me, it's every morning I have my gratitude that the way I was happy when I was there. And literally I've told people that the years I lived in Pondicherry, studied there, I can't remember if I was ever unhappy. I just have to dig my really brain to think when I was truly unhappy. So she kept all of us, we were like, she was an envelope around 300 students, people. So that, after having said that, when I came here for further studies, and from after that, living the life together, working together in scientific field for 20 years, having children together, I have nothing but my gratitude towards Mother every day. And I feel I'm so lucky that I joined the person who was also Mother's child. It could have happened where I would have been with someone else who wasn't with Mother. So that also, she made it so easy for me to harmonize my heart and feel happy. So, and she's with me, with us.
And at the time that we started working together, it was highly unusual for a couple to work with the same company. Even it was unthinkable for a couple to be working in the same department together. And that's exactly what happened, basically, that the surgeon that we were working with whom we were going to move to Michael Reese from the University of Illinois. So I told him that I want my wife to work with me. I said, I can't trust anybody more than my wife in terms of research and generating data. So and she has the right background. So because he was just moving, so he had some clout with the hospital administration. So he made us working together in the department as part of his package requirements. So that's how we worked for 18 years together.
But he, in spite of that, he did ask me, he says, I am very happy and excited to hire you, but I'm very worried about your marriage. That when two people work together, he doesn't want to be responsible for us separating. So I said, don't worry, that's the last thing you need to worry about,
The other amazing thing, thinking back, is that we had no hours, we had no punch cards. We were able to change our work schedule at will. She would take the train to work in the morning. I would drop the kids off in school, and I would drive, and in the afternoon she would leave early and drive back, and I would take the train back. Nobody ever asked about what we were doing. They were paying her for, she said she wants to cut back so she has one more day so she can take care of household things so that we'll be free on the weekends with our children. So the hospital, our boss said that is fine, but refused to cut her salary back to 4 days. So she was getting paid 5 days worth for doing work 2 days. They said, you're going to be taking care of what needs to be taken care of. Doesn't matter whether here or at home. Those days would be unheard of anybody, Now with the IT, there is a different thinking, more flexibility. But in those days, was unthinkable. Nobody would do those kind of things.
All Mother's grace.
I mean, as I said, she was orchestrating every step.
And here we are with you. Here we are with you.
50 years anniversary, as I said.
50 years anniversary.
Can I join in too?
All here shall be one day, where sweetness is home.
That's our sacred duty.